Good afternoon. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees is now convened in a regular board meeting on Monday, May 11th, 2020. Meetings of the board are normally held at 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas. However, this meeting will be conducted by video and audio conference in accordance with the governance authorization concerning suspension of certain open meeting law requirements for the COVID-19 coronavirus disaster. The quorum of members of the board will participate in the meeting and will be audible to the public. Members of the public have been directed to access the meeting from the district's website or to join the meeting by telephone. I want to welcome the members of the audience to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on today's agenda. The items on this agenda do not necessarily have to be handled in the order listed on this notice. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on the district website. They will also be rebroadcast throughout the month on Channel 16 and available as video on demand on the website. Thank you for taking the time to join us today and your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. Board member Dr. John Ogletree will give the invocation today. Dr. Ogletree?
Thank you, Bob. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for this school district. We thank you for the opportunity that has still been given us to educate our children, over 118,000 children. We still have that opportunity. We ask that you would help us all to seek the convenience in our inconvenience. We ask that you would bless every teacher. We thank you for every teacher who is trying to do their best to reach their students, every principal that's helping to coordinate that effort. We thank you, God, for every parent who has become a para teacher during this time. We thank you for the education that is taking place. We thank you for our administration that has laid out a plan to deliver a quality education even during this time of inconvenience. And thank you for our board that works so unified in a unified manner to work with our superintendent and his team. And we do thank you for modern technology and the system that already exists within our district to deliver this online education. And we also thank you for the food service that has been continually being served for those in need. So bless our meeting today. God, give us wisdom to make the right decisions. And whatever you do, God, please bless Cyfair ISD. And we thank you that we can even look forward to the graduation of these seniors. So lead us, bless us, guide us, protect us from this virus, protect every home, every staff member, every board member, and our families. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Also now, Also now, Board Member Tom Jackson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Following that, Mr. Jackson will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of our audience. Mr. Jackson.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the
to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America,
to the republic
Republic,
which
which stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our vision statement. Our vision at CFISD is formed from the acronym LEAD: to learn, empower, achieve, dream. LEAD. Our mission is to maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We will now proceed with the public comments portion of the agenda. Patrons who have registered in accordance with this notice may have their comments read aloud to the board on an agenda item during or before the board's consideration of the item. We have no public comments this afternoon. Next is the board comments. 2A, the board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any students, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. Start out with Mr. Ryan. Don, do you have anything?
I just want to commend Mark and his staff for, they've gone to great lengths pretty much on a daily basis, but the fact that we actually have graduation scheduled for these seniors is nothing short of a miracle, I believe. And, we've got, I know Julie's daughter's graduating, and their year has been turned upside down. Like no other graduating senior class I've ever seen. And the fact that our administration pretty much just stuck with it and just never gave up hope. And then with the governor releasing those dates for us, I just think it's a blessing. So I just want to thank Mark and his staff and everybody that was involved in that, because it is a little shimmer of hope for these seniors. And I think it'll be an awesome experience. It'll be like graduating during the Great Depression. We're all going to be outside, and it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So that's all I have. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Ms. Blackshear.
Yes, I would like to say how thankful and grateful I am to the principals and to the teachers who have just continued to do the best for their students through this difficult and challenging time. I have witnessed firsthand with my own grandchildren when they stay with me, the Zoom meetings and how the teachers are working with them. And it's just a different learning environment. And I tell you, I am looking forward to August and our students being able to return to the classroom, because I know that while the teachers are doing their best, online or at-home learning is certainly not the most ideal situation, but I applaud Dr. Henry and his team for making the best of a difficult situation. And I know my grandkids are eager to return and see their classmates. Like Don, I am so appreciative to the district for scheduling graduation outdoors so that we can give our seniors a proper graduation. As Don stated, their worlds have been turned upside down, and for the seniors that I've seen, they're handling it with grace. I know my granddaughter is, and Brick is so excited about graduating on the football field. She said she thought that was going to be really cool. But I'm just happy to be able to celebrate our seniors and give them the experience that they deserve. And I thank Dr. Henry and his team, how they have continued to strive to find a way to make it happen. Because I have a friend out in El Paso, and when the pandemic started, she said they just mailed the diploma to her granddaughter, nothing. So I really appreciate Dr. Henry and his team for making sure that this happens for our seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blacksher. Mr. Jackson.
This has been a trying time, as we all know. Both central administration, campus leadership, our teachers, our parents, and our students are all to be commended for both their patience as well as their flexibility. I appreciate the fact that we're committed to a concept of do-overs. If the first plan doesn't work because the system is fluid, we look and see what plan will work. And so I too join the chorus saying we're glad that we have graduations. On an odd side note, my dad did graduate during the Great Depression. The only difference is the graduation was outside, but he had no shoes. The Depression was significant. But I'm also aware that in this time, the pandemic has touched every greater family unit. Perhaps not with the illness, but with the economic illness in the way of reduced salaries or layoffs. And that impacts our community, which in turn impacts learning of our students. And once again, our teachers have been at the forefront to try and encourage our students, irrespective of the hardships, to continue and to persevere. Very remarkable time in which we live, but even more remarkable are the people of this community and of this district. I salute you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Dr. Ogletree.
I'd like to add to the echo of appreciation to the administration. And I too wanted to say that on last week we recognized teachers and the valuable role they play in the life of children. And I think the one benefit from this pandemic, among other benefits, is the value of teachers has risen. And our parents and people have seen how valuable they are and what a role they play in the lives of our children. I also hope, as Tom just mentioned, that we also develop an appreciation for every low-wage earner, every person that's working by the hour, the grocery clerks, those people that do jobs that are not quote unquote professional, that we should really appreciate them, how valuable they are to this community and to our country, and do what we can to show our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Ms. Heineman.
Thank you. I want to join my colleagues in thanking the Cypress-Fairbanks ISD leadership team for their efforts in keeping the ship going during these challenging times. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to read from my notes because I wrote my thoughts out to help me organize my thoughts. Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you to all the parents and students who sent in the wonderful comments and pictures and videos. It was so much fun to see all the social media posts celebrating our teachers. And teachers, please know that you are appreciated every day, not just during 1 week. Also, May is Mental Health Month. Thank you to our guidance and counseling department and our mental health intervention team for sharing resources and support. You can follow them on social media, and information is on our website. And I think they might be talking later in the meeting as well. While there's been much focus on our class of 2020, which is near and dear to my heart, I was also recently thinking about our juniors. This has been hard on them as well. Several of the SAT testing dates were canceled this spring and over the summer, which made me especially grateful and proud that our school district facilitated the ACT for all of our juniors in February before this pandemic happened. This was done on a school day, not on a Saturday, and at no cost to our students and our families. This policy is a clear demonstration of our mission of providing opportunities to all of our students. So I applaud the district for providing the ACT to all of our juniors. I also want to give a shout out to our nutrition services department, who continues to serve thousands of meals each week. Not only are they providing curbside pickup at several of our campuses, but they're also reaching out and finding new ways to find students at apartment complexes, at a shelter. They are continuing to strive to reach out to students and to provide nutritious meals, and I so appreciate their efforts. I also applaud the efforts of our IT department, curriculum and instruction, APs, social workers, and bus drivers who've been working together to get computers and hotspots out to students who do not have access to reliable Wi-Fi. This shines a light on the challenges faced by many of our families who may not have reliable access to the internet. Lack of access impacts not just education, but also the ability for people to apply for jobs, to access services, and telehealth. I hope our state legislature can address this challenge in the upcoming legislative session. And if we learned anything during these uncertain and very challenging times, it's the value of in-classroom instruction and face-to-face connections between teachers and students. While online learning and technology tools have certainly helped bridge the gap during these unexpected closing of school buildings, it's not a replacement for the exceptional teaching that takes place in our classrooms by real teachers. Relationships matter. So while we need investment in infrastructure in our communities, it needs to be as a support for instruction in classroom instruction, but not as a replacement. And speaking of investments, I am concerned about the impact of the current economic climate on the Texas state budget, specifically the funding for public education. Public schools educate over 5 million school children. I encourage our elected state officials to honor the commitment they made during the last session to fund public education, and I encourage them to not cut funding to public schools. Education is an investment in our future. Many of us remember the cuts that were made during the last recession, and we're still feeling the long-term negative effects. I worry about our budgets not just for the upcoming school year, but for the next biennium. I know that this will be determined when our elected officials meet again in session beginning in January. Between now and then, there will be elections, and our votes will be our voices. We are all anxious to return to classrooms. As a mom, I know how much my kids miss their teachers and the structure and the routine of being in school. We want to get back to school as soon as possible and as soon as it is safe to do so. As of now, we might not be able to start school when we want to because we don't control our start date. The state does. Yes, other school districts can start when they want to because they have agreed to jump through the bureaucratic hoops that were put in place, while we have chosen not to because we've listened to our constituents. Many of our elected officials ran on platforms supporting small government and local control. I hope they will demonstrate this value by standing up for the right of local school districts to make plans for the upcoming school year. At this time of an emergency disaster declaration, when the governor can make new rules or waive others, I would hope that there's an opportunity to demonstrate the commitment to local control and small government by allowing local school districts to control their own start dates without added bureaucracy. We want to get our employees working and our teachers teaching in classrooms as soon as it's possible with safety and maximum flexibility. And honestly, the whole next school year may look differently because of the COVID-19 disease. We're going to have to be flexible and adapt, and not everybody's going to be 100% happy with what we come up with. but as long as we focus on our students, we will be okay. And finally, I'm so excited that we're going to have graduation for our 12 high schools. I'm grateful that the governor opened up this window of opportunity for us to have outside graduations. And I'm especially happy that students who are joining the military will be able to participate before they report to duty. I know the logistics are going to be crazy and hard and inconvenient, but it's important and it'll be worth it. So class of 2020, we are proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Mr. Sarabia.
Yes, I'd like to echo all the sentiments from my fellow trustees, all very worthy, very nice, and very good. Kudos to the administration and their onward trek through unfamiliar territories, and to everybody involved and throughout the district. The food services, I see them throughout the district on my drive around, and you can see them working tirelessly throughout the days and getting the hundreds and thousands of food meals out to the community. For the Berry Center has been hosting a large food drive, which our own Julie Heineman was volunteering there, and how the Berry Center is still one of the main focus areas of our community. If anybody could tell me years ago that this was going to take place and the Berry Center would fulfill all its accomplishments, I'd like to meet that person, because it is still a main focus of our community and helps out throughout the community anytime in need. So kudos to Beth Wade and everybody who does work around the Berry Center. It's a great job. For the local entities throughout the community that are feeding and helping the community, the Sci-Hope people and other entities that are out there, they're just doing an outstanding job of sharing and showing what our community is all about. It's just amazing to see that on a daily basis, and the way our environment is right now. And for the last meeting we had, we were moving into what was hopefully going to be a May 4th startup for the following athletic seasons and extracurricular seasons throughout the spring season. And that just did not make. And I apologize wholeheartedly, heartbroken throughout the area to all the students who practice 10 months out of the year for their 2 months of showmanship and were unable to fulfill that. It's heartbreaking to the coaches who are out there making sure that everything gets done. It just didn't make, and my apologies. But I do, I feel you. I feel you very much. Continue the great work. Hard work is always served. And also last, that we're graduating. We're going to be graduating outdoors. That's going to be exciting. Been listening to stories leading up to our meeting here, and I'm not sure what's going to happen though, but I think it's going to be exciting. I may sweat a little bit and stuff though, but you know what? It's going to be something that we can give our 2020 kids some hope. And our district is special because we never say no. You're going to have to force us to say no. And I'm very proud of our district and administration and our school board trustees. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Arabia. I'll finalize with basically what everybody has said. It's just we have an awesome district, and I appreciate everything they do. The one thing I think that has come out of this, and of course I was married to a teacher we've been married a long time, but she taught for over 30 years. And I know that Dr. Ogletree's married to a teacher, and we've learned that they always need a student, right, Dr. Ogletree? And you and I are it for life. So what I will say is I do truly believe that out of this negativity, we have found a positive feeling that teachers are needed and that teachers serve such a tremendous role in the growth of all of our students, whether they're our own kids or our grandkids or just friends, families. It is obvious that teachers have a big impact. And last week's teacher appreciation, it was great to read all those great remarks. But I got to tell you, teachers, I hope you realize that I truly believe there's been a change in the support and the positivity for our teachers and educators. So I thank you all. Citizen participation. Patrons who have registered in accordance with the notice may address the board regarding matters of concern and interest to the district, other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. The board may not act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. I believe we have a few. Leslie Francis, Assistant Superintendent of Communications and Community Relations, will read aloud the public comments which were previously submitted via the district's website. Ms. Francis?
Good afternoon, President Covey, Dr. Henry, and Board of Trustees. I will now read the following comments that were submitted online on behalf of 3 patrons. The first one was submitted by Dusty Reynolds. I feel that given the ongoing threat of COVID-19, it is not time to go back to business as usual for the Cy-Fair community. Moving up the graduation dates to the earliest possible is more aggressive than any other school district in the area, and it presents our community with a huge risk of a resurgence in the spread of the virus. Delaying graduation to later in the summer or having a virtual graduation would be more appropriate. Finally, it may not be a legal issue if people do become sick, but it may present a public relations concern if a cluster of outbreaks results from the in-person graduation. The second comment I will read is on behalf of Erin Hallenchak. My daughter is in kindergarten and currently attends Hamilton Elementary. I also have a 5-year-old that will be attending kindergarten next year. Hamilton Elementary is an open concept school, as I know you are aware. Will there be any consideration for these open concept schools when considering what the 2021 school year will look like? I know you have many options and decisions to make. I wanted to voice my concerns on students being in this type of open concept, even if class sizes were smaller. It would be hard to contain any sort of highly transmissible virus in an open concept school without walls when several classrooms, more than 4 at least, are grouped very close together. I do know there was bond money awarded and some money was set to add walls to these schools. Has this or will this be discussed when making decisions for the entire district? I know not all schools are open concept and what will work for one may not work for another. Thank you for your leadership during this unprecedented time. The third comment I will read on behalf of Tracy Snyder Costigan. Thank you to Dr. Henry, his team, and the entire Board of Trustees. I am a mother of 6. This includes a senior at Bridgeland High School, a junior, 2 special needs teenagers at different schools. I am blown away at how responsive the teachers and staff have been. The dedication to my children has been beyond my expectations. I particularly appreciate the lengths at which everyone has gone to try and make 2020 special for these seniors. I know many times the squeaky wheel is louder than those running smoothly, so I wanted to say thank you. President Covey, that concludes the citizen participation part of the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. We'll now proceed with the reports portion of the agenda. 4A, the administration will present an updated oral report on the district's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. CFISD administration.
Thank you, Mr. Covey. Trustees, we're going to, again, just like last month, give you an update of where we are on our COVID-19 response plan. We're going to try to make this presentation a little shorter than last month, but certainly we'll be open to any questions that you might have. I'm sorry, we're getting our graphics up the right way. So here we go. Just going to give you an overview today. I'm going to start, and then we'll have several people speaking with you today. As you saw on May 5th, and as we've talked about, and some of the citizens have referred to Governor Abbott's executive order, which has provided the ability for some local businesses to open up in a reduced capacity manner. And that also affected us in that it provided us the opportunity to have graduation as long as graduation occurs outdoors, and graduation occurs in such a way that we socially distance not only the graduates but those attending. We have been putting together a plan to make that happen. We think it's going to be, as some had mentioned, a great day of celebration while maintaining a safe environment, not only for our graduates, but for all that attend. Having that occur, we usually allow each graduate 10 tickets, but in order to maintain the governor's orders, we're going to have to limit that to four tickets. But we will be live streaming the entire event, so anyone that does not have a ticket and that cannot attend inside CFFCU Stadium, they will be able to watch it live. The order also, although it allowed for outdoor graduations, it does limit to a great deal indoor activities, which it kind of leaves our prom, leaves award ceremonies, and any teacher training up in the air. At this time, we do not have approval to have those events, so we're kind of playing that by ear to see if those can occur. But right now, it does not look promising for those events. You can see, I think, on your screen the graduation schedule. And we're going by the same order that we would have had if they had been inside the Berry Center itself. And you can see we'll start with Langham Creek at 8 a.m. on Monday, June 1st, and we'll finish up with Bridgeland High School on Saturday, June 6th, two a day. I would let people know that if we have rain or any type of inclement weather, we still plan on having the graduations. If it's raining at 8 a.m., graduation might have to start at 10 a.m. But our goal is to get all 12 graduations in that week. We do have an alternate day on makeup day on Sunday if we just have some weather event that sets in and delays graduations on the day that they were scheduled. So we think we have a good plan in place. We're going to keep people safe. We're going to celebrate our seniors. Again, in my 39-year career, I don't know of any group of seniors that's had to endure more than this group has the last 3 months, and a lot of things that they've missed. But one thing that we can do is we can provide a culminating celebration of all of their accomplishments the last 13 years with a graduation. And I can say that sure, it would be great to be indoors and have the 10 tickets, but you're going to have one of the most unique and one of the most exciting graduations that we've ever had. So we're looking forward to that. We are cheering on the success for the class of 2020, and just want to run a few little slides through here of some of the different ways that our high schools have been celebrating our seniors. As you can see by those photos, we've had a lot of love given to our seniors by the community, by their parents, and by the faculty and staff at the individual high schools. And certainly, thank you for helping make this senior year memorable for our students. With that, Mr. Covey, I'm going to hand it off to Roy Sprague, who will talk about facilities and construction.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. We're here to give you a quick update on our activities that we have currently going on in facilities and construction. I can tell you we have not slowed down since the virus epidemic has occurred, and we've been continuing to work behind the scenes to keep our design process moving, as well as our bidding and awarding of contracts, so we can get started on construction. In fact, one of the things, this is actually a positive for us, because some of the campuses we are able to get into a little bit earlier than we would normally do, and that gives us a jump start on the construction to make sure our buildings are ready in August. First project I'm going to talk to you about is Harold Rowe. We're continuing to move forward with Harold Rowe Middle School number 19. Things are progressing very, very well on this project, and we are anticipating an on-time completion in early July, and we'll be ready for school at the start of August in 2021 school year. Next slide, please. We have many renovation projects that we're still working on, and we'll be starting construction on, and in some cases have already started construction on, from our 2014 bond program. As you can see on the screen here, we've listed the many campuses that are underway. These projects will be completed this summer in August, and I'm happy to say that once we complete these projects from the 2014, which is our phase 6, we will have all our all our renovations completed in the 2014 bond program. And the only two projects that have not been completed yet, obviously, is elementaries 57 and 58. Next slide. As part of our summer activities, we are replacing furniture at 5 of our campuses. If you recall, in our 2019 bond program, we had numerous furniture replacements to occur, coinciding with our renovations of these campuses. So we'll be replacing these 5 campuses this summer. Next slide. And as we presented previous contracts to you all for award, we have a combination of 2014 and 2019 combined scope projects that we'll also be working on this summer. These projects will be a 2-summer project and would be completed in August of 2021. The reason we were combining these scopes was because of similar work activities. We did not want to go complete the 2014 and come behind it with a 2019 project and tear out something we completed in 2014. So the facilities team has carefully coordinated all these project scope to make sure we didn't have any type of situation that would occur. And these are the campuses that we determined that we needed to combine the scope at. And those projects will be getting started. Some have already underway. And as I mentioned, will be completed in August 2021. Next slide. Also included in our 2019 bond program was the field renovations and turf replacements at all our baseball and softball fields. We're excited to start our phase 1 of this program. And as you can see, we're looking at doing this work at Cy Falls, Cy Ranch, Cy Ridge, and Cy Woods. I do want to point out that at Cy Falls and Cy Woods, we'll be upgrading the bleachers and expanding the bleacher capacity there for baseball. And over at Cypress Ranch and Cypress Ridge, we'll be increasing the bleacher size there for our softball fields. That'll allow us to have more district events at those campuses and be able to handle a larger crowd at those facilities. So we're really excited about these improvements to be performed starting this summer. Next slide. Last month, you approved the turf replacement at our Cy-Fair Federal Credit Union Stadium. As soon as the graduations are completed, we will mobilize and start the replacement of the field, and we'll be ready for football season in the start of August of 2020 and beyond. And our completion date for that project is scheduled for August 1st. Next slide. Now I'm going to talk about our curbside meals. As you recall, we've been doing curbside meals since March 16th at the beginning of this virus pandemic. We have been serving meals between 10 and 1 p.m. at 19 campuses. I do want to point out, because of construction activities, we are making a couple of modifications. So starting Monday, May 18th, we'll be closing down the Blisle Middle School operation and moving it over to Matsky Elementary School. And we'll be doing the same at Horn Elementary School, and we'll begin serving from Truett Middle School. And then starting on Monday, June 1st, we're going to close down the Cy Park High School operation, and we're going to move that over to Walker Elementary School. Our plan is to continue to serve meals through June and July through the summer to help our families in need. I can't speak enough about our nutrition department, services department, and the job they've done. Since March 16th, we have served over 670,000 meals to date, and that's through Friday, our last meal count through Friday. Next slide, please. Our print center has been providing support to our curriculum and instruction teams to provide information packets and instructional packets to our students. As you can see on the screen, we have printed a total of 362,000 plus packets to date. And if you want to equate that, if you lined up all those sheets of paper, it equates to 1,241 miles of paper. The amount of printing that's been done by our print shop and a couple of vendors that have been helping us as well to meet the demands of those instructional packets. Next slide. And kudos to our transportation department as well. They've established approximately 208 routes that we're delivering instructional packets to over 5,500 homes of people that do not have access to our campuses to pick up those instructional packets. And we deliver those packets on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday throughout the community every week. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sherry McKay. She'll take care of the next section. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. President Covey, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Henry. It is my pleasure to present our district guidelines for the student return and retrieval of items to the campus. I am just the presenter. This was the work of an incredible committee of people, which included individuals from health services, athletics, fine arts, and CTE, special programs, textbooks, school leadership, and a principal from every level. Our purpose as a committee was to provide principals and district leaders the guidance and support in preparation for students and parents to come to the campus to return or retrieve items. This task was made a little more difficult because the regulations regarding health and safety measures were changing almost daily. First, I will go over the guidelines regarding the campus preparation that had to take place before any return or retrieval could occur. Each campus spent the week of May 4th preparing for students and parents to come to the school to return items and equipment or retrieve their personal items. The committee incorporated the building access guidelines provided by our health services and the CDC to establish the practices for campuses to follow regarding health and safety protocols. We asked principals to make sure all staff involved in the student return or retrieval of items review these protocols before reporting to work. Principals then had to work with campus and district staff to determine exactly what students needed to return to each department and establish a schedule. After determining the items that needed to be returned, campus staff had to gather bins or hampers to collect the returned items. We also recommended that campus staff make sure all their radios were charged, as people would be working all over the campus and would have to communicate to make sure that people were not congregating in one place. Also, in case students had to wait in line for their turn, or for those students who might walk to the campus, we recommended that campuses place X's on the ground outside to demonstrate where students should stand 6 feet apart. As part of the schedule for receiving students, the campuses had to consider points of entry into the building, traffic patterns with large numbers of people driving to the campus, and the number of staff needed to implement their plan. As principals work to establish their plan, we also ask them to schedule their groups to ensure that no more than 10 individuals were in any one place at one time. This would necessitate using different entrances for different groups and coordination of who was entering the building and where they go once in the building. Additionally, in order to conduct contact tracing, principals were to create a QR code or ask students to bring their student ID badge in order to enter the building to retrieve their personal items. After establishing the complete campus plan, principals communicated their plan, including the health questionnaire that had to be completed before entering the building, to their community. Next slide. The weeks of May 11th, May 18th, and May 26th are to be used for student return and retrieval of items at the campus. Students and parents must complete the pre-screening health questionnaire. If they cannot access the questionnaire at home, they will be provided one upon arrival to the campus. Any yes answer on the questionnaire results in a redirection to the campus nurse for additional assessment and a final decision on whether the individual can enter the building. Additionally, health services personnel and campus trainers will screen and take the temperature of all campus staff upon their arrival. All health records will be kept for contact tracing purposes. All staff must wear face coverings or masks and gloves at all times while assisting with the student return and retrieval of items. Masks and gloves are recommended for all visitors. It is also required that all individuals maintain a 6-foot distance from other individuals. Returned items are placed in a bin or a hamper where they will remain for 5 days. After 5 days, staff can disinfect and launder the inventory following health department guidelines and store the items as normal. After the student return and retrieval event is over, custodial staff will disinfect all high-touch surfaces. The next slide contains an example of the return procedure. Now, this process will look slightly different on each campus, particularly different levels of school, but this is an example of a sample process when a student returns an item to school. Upon arrival at the campus, the student is directed by a staff member to the area for them to return their specific item. Once the student arrives at the correct return location, the student gets out of the car and shows the items or equipment to the staff member who records the return. The student then places the item in the bin or hamper, returns to their car, and leaves campus. This is a simplistic example of what each student return would resemble. If a student is coming to the school to retrieve personal items, the procedure would resemble the following example. Upon arrival to the campus, the student or parent will be directed by a staff member to report to the access door for entry into the building for retrieval of their items. The staff member will radio to a runner or a staff escort that a student needs an escort into the building. The staff member will then take the student's health questionnaire. If the student does not have a health questionnaire, the staff member will provide one for the student to complete. Any yes answer on the health questionnaire results in an escort to the school nurse for further screening and a decision about whether the student or parent can enter the building. If the student or parent presents with symptoms or answers yes to any of the questionnaire items, that student or parent can request that his or her items be collected from the locker or classroom, placed in a bag, and left for them to pick up on another day. If the student is cleared via the health questionnaire, his or her temperature is taken. If the temperature is normal, the student is allowed to swipe his or her student ID badge or scan the QR code, whichever the campus is using, to record their entry into the building. A staff member escorts the individual to the requested area in the building to retrieve their personal items. Once the items have been retrieved, the staff member escorts the individual out of the building and they leave campus. Students or parents are always attended if they must enter the building to retrieve personal items. Additionally, students and parents are encouraged to wear protective masks or face coverings and gloves while taking care of any business at the campus. While this is a very complex process in order to ensure the safety of all involved, we would like to report that all 56 elementary schools have established curbside return or retrieval, so no students or parents will be entering the elementary school buildings. Along with curbside, secondary campuses do have instances of students entering the building due to the nature of the programs and large numbers of participants and equipment that have been checked out to students over the course of the year. But as of right now, 75 of our campuses are doing a curbside pickup of items. Thank you. I'll turn it over now to Christiane.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to give you a quick update on our changes that we have made to last month's screening procedures and protocol based on Governor Abbott's latest executive order, new recommendations from TEA and the CDC. Screening is taking place at all the campuses, as you just heard. Students and parents entering the buildings will be screened, and the questionnaire has been updated to reflect the changes. Governor Abbott added several cities and states to the travel restrictions, and he also took off Louisiana, specifically New Orleans. So that was reflected in our latest updates. And the CDC has changed the guidelines for symptoms of respiratory illness and symptoms of gastrointestinal illness to 10 days since onset. Before it was 7 days for isolation precautions. So we've also reflected that in our new guidelines. The screening protocols have been shared with all supervisors to use with their team members. And our nurses and clinic assistants are working with campus administration to provide the support that they need to make the retrieval and return of items a success. Next slide, please. I'm also happy to report that our health services staff has been very busy supporting our Cyfair community. We have come together and collected material, prepped material, and sewed over 500 masks so far that we were able to give out to everyone at nutrition. I believe we passed out over 300 masks to nutrition services, and the remaining masks were passed out to the folks that were involved in the instructional packet distribution to help keep everyone safe. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Franklin Sampson, and I'm reporting.
Okay, well, I want to wait and talk with Sarah. I don't want you talking with Sarah right now until we can figure this out. Because I feel like you're not following what we set up. We said that we
Department of Guidance and Counseling, along with the Department of Psychological Services, President Covey, Dr. Henry, Board of Trustees, thanks for this opportunity. As Ms. Heineman shared earlier, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we wanted to make sure that we shared that with each and every one of you. As we move on in the presentation, we know that in regards to the coronavirus and the outbreak that has taken place, that it can be stressful. It has, of course, affected our students, our staff, along with our community. But we want you to know that we have been actively involved in the lives of our students, our community, our staff, and making sure that we address those needs. We are seeing some anxiety along with increased levels of stress and some symptoms of PTSD. But know that we are trained and we are there to help them as we move along through this pandemic. We've taken a proactive approach, and we have assisted our entire community, staff, and students with ongoing resources that I'll explain in this short presentation. As we move forward, we would like for you to know that our campus counselors are actively involved with communicating with our teachers on all of our campuses. There's an open line of communication there. We've had information that has been shared with us via the tip line along with Google Classroom, and we've received parental phone calls and emails. But know that our counselors across the district, along with our psychologists, are responding to the needs and addressing them in multiple ways. As far as wellness checks are concerned, we've actively partnered, as we always have, with the Cypress-Fairbanks Police Department, and making sure that if there is a need that requires a wellness check to an individual's residence, that we are conducting those on a case-by-case basis. But know that all serious or all tips that come in, we are responding to those in an active way. So we thank our Department of Psychological Services, along with our Cypress-Fairbanks Police Department, and our counselors on our campus across our district in conjunction with our mental health intervention team. The Department of Guidance and Counseling and Psychological Services have worked extremely hard to make sure that we provide resources on our coronavirus website, on our district website, as a resource page. If you scroll through there, you'll see a section that's earmarked mental health resources. We have updated our mental health minute. There's one on there, most notably, that is a special edition for C19. So we definitely encourage each and every one of you to take a look at the mental health minute. That's posted on our district's website under the mental health portion of our coronavirus update page. Along with the mental health minutes, you also see the CDC recommendations as it relates to mental health. Also, active parenting. We want to make sure, as parents are taking on additional roles, as Dr. Ogletree shared in his prayer, paras and professionals, or paras and teachers, that they also are, of course, given tools to help them parent during this pandemic. In addition to that, we have partnered with many of our licensed therapists, and many of them are going all virtual right now. And we have made sure that we provide those resources on our district's webpage as well, just in case we have situations where there are those students that need additional therapy outside of the regular school setting. We're excited because we have launched our Facebook social media page, our guidance and counseling social media page. We are thankful because we've received 3,500 in some weeks of traffic on that page, and then other weeks 7,500 clicks. So we're super excited. We have worked with our department to make sure that we provide resources for mental health awareness. We have webinars on that Facebook page, substance use prevention, our food giveaways across the district, mask giveaways, financial assistance, and of course, as Dr. Henry did earlier in the presentation, we definitely want to salute our seniors. So we have a few of those videos from across our district posted on those social media sites too. So again, please follow us at CFISD Counseling on Twitter and Facebook if you have not done so. Please like us on Facebook. Please follow us on Twitter. Of course, counselors care, guidance and counseling department, psychological service, we all care. And we've been helping to provide services. We've partnered with some of our community partners, more notably Sci Life Church, Houston Food Bank, Sci Hope, Sci Fair, Helping Hands. We've had multiple volunteers to do so with our counselors, our youth service specialists, and we're just excited to be out there to help parents, to help families who are in need. We've directly assisted over 1,000 families. That's in addition to what our district is doing. We've partnered with outside resources or companies and churches, and we have provided a host of different meals for families. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that as well. Our youth service specialists, which many of us call social workers, have constantly received referrals, 430 referrals in March, roughly 405 in April. Of those services, we have provided 1,400 direct services in March, and then over 1,800 in the month of April. So those services consist of, but not limited to, adjustment to trauma, grief, dealing with child abuse, social functioning, and a host of others. But we're thankful for our youth service specialists who always step up to the plate, and they are super amazing. We're just thankful that we have that resource within our district. We also are supporting staff. So we are doing so. One of the ways that we decided to assist our staff in a huge way was to provide a Zoom workshop or Zoom training, of which consists of understanding stress, all the way from fostering hope during difficult times. Those are scheduled each Wednesday throughout the month of May at 2:30. We received an overwhelming response. Our mental health intervention team has been very instrumental in sending out surveys to our staff and then analyzing the results. And then from there, we've created this workshop. So it's all on a Zoom platform, but it will be available to the public as well. So the initial session is limited to staff only, but after the session is completed, we are providing that for our entire community. And then finally, we'd like to share that we're continuing to offer support through the wellness program. Of course, each staff member, it doesn't matter if the person's an administrator, a teacher, para, bus driver, cafeteria worker, we provide 2 counseling sessions for each and every one of our staff members. They are free of charge. We are indeed grateful for the opportunity to serve in that capacity. And those sessions are offered through a licensed professional counselor, which is outstanding and really unheard of. But Sci-Fair, of course, is cutting edge, and we're providing those services on a virtual platform. We're not utilizing Zoom, but we have a more secure platform that we use for those special therapeutic sessions with our staff. Thanks again, and now I'll turn it over to Dr. Linda Macias.
Good afternoon, Dr. Hendry and members of the board. It's nice to see you. As I've shared before, the Texas Education Agency has charged us with instructional continuity for our students, and that includes continued instruction as well as monitoring and assessing progress. Our instructional continuity response to the COVID-19 pandemic continues to be flexibility in supporting our students with continued learning. And that means helping them to resubmit some of the activities if need be to assist them in being successful. Our schools continue to be closed, but our teachers are teaching lessons. They're contacting their students. And our learning at home online program continues, as well as our instructional packets, which are being developed weekly by our curriculum instruction and accountability team. We worked as a team to develop, a team of elementary and secondary principals to develop the marking period for grading expectations, and calculations for one, the elementary yearly averages, and then secondly, for the secondary spring semester averages as well. The committees were charged with developing a plan that supports the needs of all of our students. And we specifically talked about our students who are experiencing difficult situations or difficult conditions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. We talked about students who were wanting, who were expecting to use a fourth marking period to increase their grades and earn credit for a course that they may have not been doing well in, or to be able to graduate. We also knew that there were students who are academically strong, but for whatever reason didn't perform their best on marking period 3, and they were really counting on that marking period 4 to improve their grade. And then we knew there were also students like our athletes who were needing to improve their grade average to be able to qualify to play sports at the university or college level. And then we also wanted to make sure that we didn't forget about our kids that we haven't been able to reach, and that we established a plan where we could support them with marking period 4 when they came back in August. Now, yes, next. Before I go into the grading guidelines, I will share with you that one of the pieces of recommendations that we have passed on to our teachers and our campuses is that the last week of the school year, which is the 25th to the 29th, actually the 25th is Memorial Day. So we really have 3 days, 26th, 27th, and 28th that are student days. That week, teachers will be using to help students who have not turned in some assignments, or students who are failing, to help them be successful. So we, throughout this whole time, that has been a focus of ours and with our teachers and leaders to help our students be as successful as they possibly can be. Now, the grading lines that I'm going to just briefly touch on are actually located on the Learning at Home site. So parents, anyone can go on the Learning at Home site, and they can see the complete detail of the grading guidelines for all of the 2 different levels. So let's start with elementary. So at elementary, we will be taking a grade. We have been taking a grade a week, and they've been in reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. And so students will be receiving this weekly grade, and then the marking period 4 in each of the content areas will be determined by averaging the 6 equally weighted grades and assigning the final marking period grade based on the table below. Now, just quickly about what do I mean by equally weighted? That means that there's not a different percentage for an exam or for a quiz or for a daily grade. Everything has the same value, the same weight. So once the teachers average the 6 equally weighted grades, then they will use the table below to assign a grade. So the lowest that a student will be earning is a 69. If a student scores between a 70 and an 89, they will be assigned an 89 for the final marking period. If they get a 90 to 100, they will earn 100. Elementary was a much simpler process to go through because you don't have the issues with GPA or credit for high school, things of that sort. So we were able to be a little more flexible with elementary, but still making sure that students had the ability and could work towards these higher grades. If you go to the next slide, please. We'll talk about the secondary grading guidelines. And so here, teachers will again take 1 grade a week for each of the lessons that our teachers are delivering or lessons that are on our Learning at Home side, or also the instructional packets. Whether it's elementary or secondary, the instructional packets also play a part in possibly being used to get a grade. So again, students will receive a weekly grade for per course for the marking periods. The grades will again be all equally weighted. So again, there's not one assignment graded higher than another as far as a percentage weight. Everything is the same. And there is no final exam for any of the high school courses. Next slide, please. So again, if you look here, you'll see the how we are determining the grades. So again, the marking period for grades will be averaged equally. And then if a student earns 0 to a 69, again, the lowest you can earn is a 69, then that's what will be placed in the final marking period for. If a 70 or a 79, then we will assign a 79. An 80 to an 89, they will receive an 89, and a 90 to 100, they will receive 100. We spent a lot of time talking to our principals, our leaders, about having grace here, because we want to make sure that we are assigning grades, but that we're also being sensitive to the situations that are occurring at the time that we are in. So the spring semester average will be calculating by averaging the marking period 3 and the final marking period 4 grade. So again, I would encourage parents to go to the Learning at Home site, and you will see in detail everything regarding the grading guidelines for both elementary and for secondary. So let's transition over to summer school. Now, while we're waiting for guidance from the governor and the commissioner regarding summer school, we are hearing we're hearing some talk about the possibility of small groups of students being allowed to be in the buildings for summer school. We don't have confirmation on that at this time, but we will certainly look at that as a possibility if that becomes available to us. So at this time, we're going to be talking about summer school virtually, unless we hear something different from the state. We can come back and make some adjustments. I will share with you that we are increasing the number of students being invited to summer school, and we're not charging for any programs. So starting with elementary, so pre-K through 5th grade, you see that it's for 8 weeks. So we're going all the way through July for most of our programs at the elementary level. One thing that I want to point out before I talk about each of the summer school programs for elementary is that our students in each program will be with a teacher live virtually. So it's a 2.5 hour program. During these 2.5 hours, there will be a teacher there facilitating the instruction. So you all know Camp Summit, and these are for our students who are a half level below reading, and we are inviting about 4,600 students to Camp Summit. The 3 to 5 is what we would typically be our SSI camps. Those are our students who still needed to pass their, actually our students who are still weak in reading and in math. And so we're calling it Camp Triumph, and we are inviting 5,400 students. We have a requirement to provide a pre-K through K bilingual ESL program, and it has to be 120 hours. And so we are inviting 1,500 students. That total just there is 11,500 students. We typically have about 8,000-ish, somewhere around there, students in our summer school programs. Now, this last one, the pre-K through 5 Camp Elevate. My team is very creative with naming programs. So this program is really for any other student in the district, pre-K through 5th grade, who wants to continue with their learning, but this is all virtual. These are self-guided, but what we will have are some teachers that are serving as a hotline support. So if the student is struggling on a certain assignment that's part of Camp Elevate, they have a phone number that they can call and they can reach a live teacher. So let's go on to middle school. Okay, so for middle school, we are offering the same programs that we traditionally offer in our summer school program. So there are opportunities for students to earn high school credit over 2 summer school sessions. There is a math acceleration, again, 2 summer school sessions. So this is to accelerate our students in math so that they can be able to participate in the K-level math and then in algebra. We have a program for the New Arrival Center. Again, that's traditional. We have that. We have makeup credit, again, over 2 summer sessions. And this is a one that's new again. So this is an enrichment. And the enrichment is over 2 summer sessions for reading and math. I'm not going to go into detail that because I'm going to talk about it again in high school. So we'll talk about it in just a second. So let's go to the next slide, please. So the next slide is our high school summer school. Again, we're offering the same programs. Our kids are not missing out that we offer every year during summer school. We offer the original credit courses, a makeup credit. We've got algebra camp. We've actually extended it for 2.5 weeks. We have the New Arrival Center. And then this enrichment piece, go on to the next slide, because I'll talk about that one. So this is at the middle school and high school. They also have an enrichment piece, just like elementary did. And so the invitation is going out to any students who are scoring between a 70 and a 74 in math or reading. They are being invited to participate in our program. Again, the enrichment is all virtual. The other programs, they will have contact with teachers every single day. But the enrichment part is virtual. It's free for our parents, but there will be a contact person that they can call if they need help with an assignment or an activity. Okay. So aside from the all virtual, the enrichment programs, we are inviting a little over 18,000 students to summer school this year, and it'll be a lot more when we count in the enrichment programs. We really don't have a count for that, but it should be a lot more than that. So we are excited about the opportunity to continue working with our students during summer school and having more contact with them. So a little different than right now, the teachers having daily contact with them as well. Next slide. At our last roundtable, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but our last roundtable, you asked about how many students we have not been able to contact. So we're calling them our unreachable students. We have not made any contact with them. The state calls them the uncontactable students. So I want to give you just a little brief highlight. We have about, let me turn over, sorry, my last page. Thank you. We have 644 students in the district that we have not made any contact with at all. And so that represents about 0.5% of our students that we have not been able to reach in any form at all. Now, you will notice from the graph here that the majority of those students are economically disadvantaged. So of the 644 students, let's see, 553 are economically disadvantaged students. And if we break it down a little bit more, the highest number that we have not been able to reach are Hispanic students, and that's about 398 students. We also broke it down for you by level. So of those students, of those 644 students, 390 are elementary, 95 are middle school, and 159 are high school. So that concludes my part of the update, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stewart.
In Cypress-Fairbanks ISD, we are committed to recruiting and retaining the best educators who meet our district standards. During this time of the year, we are typically traveling around the country recruiting. Although this is clearly a year like any other, our team is still working diligently to ensure that we have quality candidates for our vacancies. While virtual recruitment efforts are by no means new to us, this year we are excited to embark on a new journey and offer our first ever virtual teacher career fair through Jobs Connected. Jobs Connected is a user-friendly platform similar to Zoom. Our virtual teacher career fair will take place June 3rd for elementary teacher applicants and June 4th for secondary teacher applicants. On both days, from 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., teacher applicants will have the opportunity to meet with all of our campus principals in a virtual arena. Think of our annual career fair at the Berry Center. In a similar fashion, principals will each have a booth, much like their table, to convey the spirit of their campus. As applicants visit each booth by clicking on a campus logo, applicants will enter the campus virtually. There, they will find additional pictures and videos that will give the applicant some insight about that campus. Principals and their leadership team will also have an opportunity to share a brief presentation about their campus, current vacancies, as well as provide an opportunity for applicants to ask questions. Registration information for our virtual career fair will be posted on the district's website and social media pages this week. The virtual teacher career fair is just one of the many recruitment efforts that our recruitment team will utilize to ensure that we have a quality pool of applicants. This past spring, we held experienced teacher and student teacher interview days, as well as participated in virtual university career fairs. I would like to note that virtual interviewing is not new for our CFISD recruitment team. In 2017, the HR department expanded our recruitment efforts via a virtual interviewing platform that's called RIVS. Using RIVS, we've interviewed all across the nation and as far away as Dubai. So we're not new. This isn't new for us as a district to interview virtually. By having experience with this virtual mode of conducting interviews for a few years, our district has not missed a beat. I would also like to share that we are excited about our high school student Grow Your Own program that is offered in our district for those students interested in education as a profession. Today, we are sending out 190 letters of intent to our high school seniors who are graduating from the IPET or Child Guidance program offered in our district. All 190 students who meet the hiring criteria will have the opportunity to interview for instructional aid positions upon graduation from high school or certified teacher positions upon college completion. This provides a great opportunity that is available to our CFISD students as a means for us to recruit them back to our district. As I close, the next slide you'll see, I would like our community to know that while we may have over 400 teacher vacancies right now, we are also hiring for the 2021 school year in our ancillary departments. We have approximately 150 bus driver and attendant vacancies, 80 custodian vacancies, 75 food service worker vacancies, 70 Club Rewind, and 8 Berry Center positions available. So for anyone interested, please go to the district website to apply. Thank you. I will now turn the presentation over to Teresa Hull, our Chief of Staff.
You're on. Thank you, Sharita. And I am going to be doing this next session about reopening CFISD. As you might imagine, going all the way back to March, we started talking about what would it look like when we reopened business as maybe not usual, but close to usual. So we started that a couple of months ago, but we started a committee about a month ago. And on this committee, we tried to find someone that could represent all different areas of our district. So it's very easy, and there's so many moving parts in a district our size, or any school district for that matter. We wanted to make sure that we didn't leave anything up to chance, and we had everything possible covered. So what I asked the committee to do is I asked the committee to look at three things. I asked them to develop a plan for maintaining continuity of instruction for students and operation of the district while prioritizing the health and safety of students and staff under the following scenarios. The traditional way that we have had school in the past. Of course, the third one is virtual, and then the middle one is blended, where we may have some students in school and some students and staff that are virtual. And let me make this this clear. I'm very optimistic in August. I think we're going to be back at school. Now, just like some of the changes we made to our campuses with procedures, and when we were concerned about the safety and security of our staff and students and visitors, we're going to do the same types of things when it comes to health security. So things will look a little different, but you know, I know parents are concerned, and I know students are concerned about starting in August. And I can tell you right now that we are gearing up to have business as close to usual as possible in August. Kids are going to be back on campuses. Teachers are going to be back on campuses, and we're going to start the 2020-2021 school year off on a great foot. But we have to plan for the worst. Even though we're expecting the best, we have to plan for the worst. So that's why we're taking a look at what it would look like if we had blended instruction and what it would look like with virtual instruction. And we're going to be ready when that time comes to start school off in August in a great way. You can see some of the considerations that we had to take into account for each scenario, and you can't just look at it for one scenario. You've got to run it through all three to make sure that you're meeting the needs of our students and staff and community. You can see enhanced health and safety measures goes back to what I was saying about making sure our campuses are secure. We've also got to make sure that it's a healthy and safe environment. Health screenings, who and when and where and how. Access to meals, as you know, we've continued with our food service program, even though we haven't been on campuses. So how do we continue that with these three scenarios? Avoidance of large congregations. I'm optimistic. I think we're going to be playing volleyball and football and running cross country and having bands and choirs, but we want to be prepared for all possible scenarios. We want to make sure, and one of the big concerns that we've had is that there's equitable and quality instruction. When you see our virtual learning package when we open in August, if we have to use it, it's going to be much more advanced, and we think it's going to be much better than what we're offering right now, even though we're proud of what we were able to do when we had to turn on a dime. Remote access, modification of instructional calendar, modification of grading guidelines, accommodations for childcare, modifications of policies and regulations, connections and communications, and anticipated and unanticipated issues that we might have. This committee covers all areas of the school district, and we're going to have a plan in place to make sure when our students come back in August that they're going to be safe and well cared for, as well as our students and any visitors and that we might have to our campuses. So having kind of wrapped up our presentation, I want to finish it off with a little positive, talking about Teacher Appreciation Week, which was last week. So we're going to run this short little montage of pictures and videos.
the best teacher, and I miss you, and you miss me so much. I love you. Hi, Miss Roberts. You're the best teacher for me because you're so kind and you're awesome and beautiful. And I miss you. Bye.
Okay, trustees, that completes our presentation to you today. You know, the thing that I would want to leave our trustees with and what I want to leave the community with is we're going to be back in August, and we're going to be rolling. And like I said, we're going to take great care of your children. We're going to take great care of our staff. So let's look forward to celebrating our graduates here in a couple of weeks. And then after that, getting geared up and getting ready to roll in August. So, Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. I know that our board members probably have questions or statements. So we're going to start with Debbie Blackshear this time. Debbie? Are you there?
He's got it.
Hold on. Hold on just a minute. We're connecting. Debbie, you're up.
Okay. I'm still trying to absorb it all. It's a lot of information. But just going back, I want to make sure I understood what Dr. Macias said, is that doing it virtually, there will be no cost for summer school. Is that what I understand?
That is correct, Ms. Blackshear. There are certain programs during the summer that we charge for, as you know, but this summer we are not going to be charging for any programs at all. And so if students choose to do the virtual route that we have available for them, the enrichment route, then that also will be free to them. And at the elementary level, they will have a contact person they can actually call and contact with. At the secondary school, just a little bit different because they actually have the number, who the kids are that's going to the 70 and the 74.
Is it by invitation only, or can anyone attend any of the classes? That
at the elementary with the enrichment, any student who wants to attend who didn't fall into the other programs can certainly attend.
Right. Okay. And just one more thing, Dr. Macias, you know, as a percentage, the numbers of students that were unreachable are, when you look at a 0.5% is low, but it still breaks my heart to think, and I hope that they are getting instruction somewhere, but it just really breaks my heart to think that those kids have not had any, may not have had any instruction during the pandemic. And it just concerns me about where they'll be, you know, in the fall when we start back. So,
we agree, Ms. Blackshear. That's why we didn't, I mean, it's compared to our total enrollment, it's obviously a small number, but it's not a number that we would say, you know, we're glad it's a small number, because we're not. Every single student is important to us, and we are concerned about these students.
Right. And I know that the team did everything they could to contact those students, and we had packets available. And so anyway, I appreciate all the efforts of our district have made to try to reach out and reach those students. But there's only, realizing that there's only so much that we can do. But
and Ms. Blackshear, we haven't given up on them. We're still trying to find them.
Good. I'm sure you are, Dr. Macias. Thank you so much. That's all my questions, Bob.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Mr. Jackson.
He's muted himself.
Mr. Jackson, I think you're muted. Can you unmute there?
Trying to.
There you go.
A couple of comments and observations. First, as always, a superb job by our senior management team. Truly a blueprint for the rest of the state to follow. Very impressed on the mental health front. Franklin, I would presume that your virtual platform is something that you can continue to carry on throughout the year, even after we start meeting people in person. Is that a correct presumption?
Absolutely, sir. We want to use every resource that we can and make it as simple as possible for those who need help to receive the help that they need.
Major kudos to you and your team. To borrow an old phrase, y'all have made lemonade out of a bunch of lemons. In terms of silver linings, we've talked about this each of the last 3 board sessions. But Linda, you and your team have come through once again with your virtual learning and enrichment concept. I know that this takes a tremendous amount of time from you and your staff, but do you see that this is a project that if it gets traction over the summer that you might be able to include some of the lessons learned throughout the year?
Absolutely. I think we've learned a lot of lessons over these last few months, Mr. Jackson, and especially for summer school, we can certainly continue looking at ways to reach students other than the ones that typically attend summer school to help bridge the gaps.
I find that very exciting. You and I have visited off and on over the past 8 years about the Almost There group. And I think this is a fine opportunity to reach out to those who are almost there and pull them up. Very impressive concept. And I like the approach. When we talk about our unreachable students, I'm reminded that we often have between 300 and 500 students who are homeless. I didn't ask you to find that number before the board meeting, but do you happen to have a rough offhand guesstimate of how many of our students fall into the homeless category?
We have a number that we collected from the campuses. I'm not sure if Dr. Stewart has a different number, but our number that we collected regarding the homeless was 21 students.
Oh, that's very small. I think that is good. 644, as my colleague Debbie Blackshear pointed out, is a big number. That's the size of some school districts. But I'm also aware that we have a large number of students that are in El Rincon. We share with other school districts, and that number seems to be easily what we share with other districts. Is it possible that some of these students have in fact moved to other districts?
Dr. Stewart, do you want to answer that since you shared some things this morning?
Good afternoon. Yes, we have, we've contacted our attendance officers, over 200 kids that are labeled as unreachable, uncontactable, and we found a variety of situations. Some of them have transferred to other districts. Others are just not responding via email or text messages. And so it's a variety of reasons that they are unreachable. Our last resort, or one of our methods, will be those students that are on the list we will send our attendance officers out. And so they will use those techniques that they typically use throughout the school year to contact them. So they'll be knocking on doors and asking or saying to them, you have not received or accepted your packets, you're not answering the emails from your teachers. And so we're going to try to pinpoint and drill down to why we have not been able to get in touch with them. So either they've moved or something else has gone on. But just as Dr. Macias said, we are not going to leave any stone unturned. We're still looking for those students. And so our next step, we will continue to knock on doors and be able to tell you specifically all of those kids that are on the list, where they are and why we're not able to get in touch with them. So this is a continuous process for us.
Excellent. Thank you for answering the question I meant to ask, but did not put words to the question.
You're welcome.
That concludes my questions and comments, Bob.
Dr. Ogletree?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say first, I was quite impressed with the whole report, especially the mental health area. And I have a couple of questions there and another question to Dr. Henry, to Reverend Franklin, on the youth service specialist, those reports in the March and April referrals, 430 referrals in March, 405 in April. Is that a normal referral number throughout the year, or is this an increase since we've been in this COVID-19 situation?
Thus far, it has remained pretty consistent. We have charged our youth service specialists with following up with everyone that's on their caseload, but the numbers thus far have remained pretty consistent.
Okay. And you indicated that the online, I guess it's a Zoom, the mental health series would first be for the staff and then to the community. When will it be open to the community?
We are recording those on Wednesdays at 2:30 live with our staff, and from there converting them into MP4 format. We're planning on placing those on our district website that following day or the day after, but no longer than that Friday of that same week. And it will be available on our social media platform as well as on our district's website. The link will be available.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Henry, in your planning, the question I have is on the blended area. And I assume is that, Dr. Henry, if when we go back, there is a limitation on the number of students that can congregate or be in a particular area, and is that the blended that you'd have a staggered amount of students on campus and then have to still offer some virtual along with students coming to the campus? Is that a good understanding of blended? I don't know.
Dr. Ogletree, that's to answer your question with a short answer. Yes, that's what we're talking about. But we're not just looking at, where you may have some kids in the morning and other kids in the afternoon. We're looking at some kids may have a Monday, Wednesday schedule. Others may have a Tuesday, Thursday, and then be supplemented virtually. We're trying to prepare for all different scenarios. And maybe, Dr. Ogletree, we start back with 80-85% of our students in person, and we have 10 or 15% that we're still serving virtually. So we're trying to look at, there's literally 100 different ways you can look at this, and we're going to try to be prepared to meet the needs not only of our students but our families when August arrives.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Heineman.
Yes, great. Thank you so much for the excellent presentation. So informative. I only have one question, which is good because I used all my words up in my opening comment. My quota has been overshot. But my one question is for Dr. Macias. Dr. Macias, when will parents be receiving the invitations for their kiddos to attend summer school?
Ms. Heineman, that is happening as we speak.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I believe last Thursday or Friday, they started but it's going to be different right now, or this time. They're actually getting contacted by their teachers.
Okay.
So it's not a massive email that went out. They're being contacted by their teachers, and the teachers letting the parent know what program the child qualified for, and then seeing if they're interested in participating. And they're even being asked if we're able to come back in some face-to-face manner, if they would be comfortable with that, only comfortable with virtual.
Thank you. And are we providing transportation?
Well, if it's all virtual, we don't need transportation.
I know, but yeah.
But if we are able to do some face-to-face, we have some programs that are very small teacher to student ratio, then yes, we probably would. We've always had transportation for summer school.
Thank you. That's it.
Mrs. Arabia.
Yes, thank you very much. The unreachable part, that was a little troubling. The questions by Debbie and Tom were very revealing. I believe Deborah hit it on the dot. I would love to see some information in our next meeting with those kids that are unreachable. I was going to ask the question, are we able to send people out to their residents to see if they moved or what, but she had a good answer that they were doing it as we speak now, investigating the unreachable kids. So that was quite relieving in that part. I have one question for I have two questions. One for Dr. Henry. You talked about maybe when I'm interpreting, maybe staggering the classes. Is that true? Come the fall, maybe, a stagger presence to where we have, different days where some may come in and some may not. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, that's one option. That's not the option that we hope. Our full intention is to prepare to have all students report to campus in August, but we have to be prepared, and that is one of the scenarios that we are looking at.
Right, and I totally agree with that. If that's a starting point, at least where we can at least get the kids back in.
Hey, Gilbert, I want to add one thing to your question about the number of kids that we haven't that have been what do we call it, uncontactable, unreachable. The students that we have been unable to unreach. I would just remind that our mobility rate in this district is somewhere around 4,000 or 5,000 students every year that move out of the district and move back into the district. So it's very possible that many of those that are unreachable are no longer in our district and somewhere else. That doesn't mean we're going to give up looking for them, but we do have a high mobility rate, just like all large districts do in the Harris County area. So I just want to make sure that's
absolutely understood. It's just as you saw Debbie and Tom, it hurts when we see that maybe somebody's being left out, and that's a tribute to the board and the administration that we're trying our best, no matter who it is, that we're not turning away anybody, no matter what, and making extra efforts to try and get them involved. So it speaks tributes to the administration and board on our concern. On the staggering issue, though, come fall, have Dr. Henry, is it possible that if things are not moving as fast as we hope, can we stagger classes into a Saturday day also?
Again, that's a great question. We're trying to look at every scenario, and I guess what what you're saying is we may go 3 days a week with one group of students and 3 days a week with the other half. The only problem we get into there, Mr. Sarabia, is we get into a contract problem with teachers.
Right.
So we would have to make sure that we work those details out. But that's a great question and something we need to look at.
Okay, and I have one more question for Ms. Burnell, Christine, with the safety issue of the kids coming back on board here. First of all, do we have enough PPE equipment to suffice throughout the summer? And are we working at getting everything that we need for the fall and spring semesters ahead of time before a rush becomes upon us, that our people that are checking the students daily and working with them have enough PPE equipment that we're going to be safe? And I, for one, know that, it's the thermometers are going to be vital in almost every event that is taking place throughout the next school year. Do we have enough of those? Because from what I'm hearing around the country, those are gone and reserved out of the way. So if she could answer that, and then I can follow up with the following question.
Of course, we are working with our vendors directly to make sure that we are able to order all the PPE and the thermometers that we need. We're also looking into some other options using body scanners and things like that. While right now the supply is tough to find, our vendors have assured us that by the start of the school year in August, we should be able to order our full supply list that we have provided them with, and we are checking with them regularly to make sure that this is still the case. We've already started to order, and we're very optimistic that we will be able to get everything that we need to protect our staff and our students.
Yes, that's very comforting, because I know it's going to be quite a rush, especially during the winter months that we come upon, that we're going to need all the PPE. And I hate to have our care workers and our frontline people having to reuse equipment or some sort, as we hear throughout the country, that they're having to ration out their PPE equipment and stuff. And I sure would like to have adequate protection for everybody. Another thing I was going to bring up before I let you go, is there any work and process that educating the parents of the students and the administration and all employees about the proper way to send their kids to school? I mean, some parents could be taking their temperature before they leave. Events are going to be, I would think, very similar to that. So that way, when the parents are doing something, that they're doing it the right way and just not assuming that they did it right and it's different when they get to school.
Yes, sir. That is part of the plan for the Committee for Reopening Cyfair ISD. We are looking at how we best educate both our staff, our students, and our families to come back to school safely. And our nurses are working on a plan that will be proposed to the committee to make that happen.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's very comforting knowing that your guys are on top of everything that has many of our concerns and stuff. So thank you very much, Dr. Bob. Go ahead.
Hey, Gilbert, before I just wanted to add this. I thought you brought up a good point. More than ever, we're going to be relying on our parents when we come back to school to make sure that children do not come to school ill. One of the proposals that I feel confident that will come out of this committee is any type of attendance for exemption exam and those type of rules that we've had in the past will not be a part. So we're going to be encouraging folks when you're sick to stay home. So it's going to be a joint effort between the home and the school to make sure that we're all safe.
Absolutely, Doctor. I totally agree on that. It's not going to just be sent in the school and you guys got it done and everything. It's going to be a joint effort all around for for the coming months, if not the next 10 or 12 months or something like that, though. So it's going to take a concerted effort to work safely. So appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gilbert. Mr. Ryan.
Hey, Bob.
Yes, sir.
I don't really have any questions. I do have a couple of comments. One, I was impressed with Franklin and his presentation on the mental health, and I'm really pleased that our district is. I think we've gone to greater lengths than we have in the past with offering those services to not just our employees but also to our students. Because I know we have a lot of teens that are struggling. I love the fact that we're putting a focus on that. And then also with part of Linda's presentation, and we're talking about the packets and everything, I've got my tech guru, Katie. Can y'all see her? There she is, killing it. But she was telling me that we have loaned out like 6,000 computers this semester. So I think that speaks volumes to the efforts that our administration and that her department is doing, because they're sanitized, they're clean, they're packaged. It's a big effort. And so I'm really grateful to them, but I was just blown away by that number of 6,000. I know we have a lot of students, but if you think about some of our economically disadvantaged families, who may not be able to afford the technology that their students need, and the fact that our district's able to offer it, I think that's huge. So it was a great report, and a couple of glitches that were kind of awesome in my opinion, but hey, that's, it's been a fun meeting. So that's all I got, Bobby.
Thank you, Donnie.
Yeah, baby.
Mr. Sprague, this happened so long ago in this presentation, but you did say that Rowe Middle School is going to be ready July 1st. Do you feel like? Is that what you said?
It's the first week in July. Yes, sir.
All right. That's good to hear. I have driven by it. If you haven't, it's really a fine facility. And this is a facility that's a 3-school facility, and it's going to be built basically in a circle, and they're going to share cafeteria. And I've had people go, well, how does that happen? Well, actually, it's more the cooking part than it is the distribution of the food, but it's still a savings for us, and it's a great idea. So, Dr. Macias, you know how I like to bother with you a little bit, but certainly a question that has been answered a number of times on the uncontactables. Now, let me ask you about, do we have any idea of the percentage of our students that just maybe we've contacted them, but they're not participating in our online learning? Do we know a number there?
We don't have that number yet. However, we are able to get that number. You may recall that I shared at maybe the last board meeting that all of our teachers are filling out a form that we've titled Instructional Continuity Form. And on that form, they are capturing weekly if students are working on the online platform or the instructional packets or not working at all. And so we will be able to gather that information, and we will be gathering that information. So hopefully by the June meeting, we can have a little bit more of that for you. Okay, good. Well, I'm hopeful that's a small number too. So anyway, thank y'all very much for the presentation. It's always amazing to see what you do, Dr. Henry, with your day team and with the entire district. So thank you very much. Next up is the administration will present an oral report on the preliminary budget for the 2020-2021 school year. Karen Smith, you're up.
Thank you, President Covey. President Covey, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Henry, I will be providing a brief overview of the 2020-2021 preliminary general operating budget. The factors influencing the budget process for the 2020-21 budget are, next slide. First of all, student enrollment growth rate of approximately 0.5%. Student enrollment can affect the need for new teachers in the current budget. Second, the opening of facilities. As you know, CFISD will be opening Rowe Middle School in August of 2020. Although bond funds paid for the construction of the new middle school, the general fund will actually fund the operating cost of the new facility. These costs include principal, associate and assistant principals, counselors, nurse, and other core staff, as well as utilities, property insurance, etc. Third, increase in property values. Not only does the increase in property values affect tax collections, but the increase in local values will begin affecting the compressed tax rate beginning in tax year 2020. In tax year 2019, only the increase in the statewide property values affected the compressed tax rate. I will provide additional detail later in the presentation. Fourth, the slowing economy and higher unemployment. Prior to the nationwide shutdown due to COVID-19, the economy was flourishing and unemployment was at record lows. Last week's jobs report shows unemployment at 14.7%, which is the largest one-month increase on record. The possible effect on property values and tax collections were considered in compiling next year's budget. Property values are based on the value at January 2020, which is prior to the downturn of the economy. However, property values might be slightly affected by appeals. State aid is primarily funded from sales tax and oil and gas taxes. The comptroller announced that April 2020 sales tax revenues were down by 9.3% compared to April of 2019. The gas has also seen a sharp decline in the price per barrel. Legislators have indicated that the CARES funding from the federal government will help offset these declines in sales taxes and oil and gas taxes for the 2021 school year. Fifth, the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic will affect how we educate students until there is a vaccine. The preliminary budget was built understanding that there will be additional costs to keep our employees and students safe, provide our students the resources for various learning options, and to provide remediation due to lost instruction. Next slide. The budget was built on the same four primary goals as we had last year, which is to preserve the quality of instruction and services, retain and recruit quality staff, prioritize student and staff safety, and protect the district's operational infrastructure. Next slide. This chart shows the increase in property values over the last 5 years. The 2020 values are the Harris County Appraisal District's preliminary certified property values, which are $57.7 billion. The budget was built on a 5% increase in property values, which is down slightly from initial projections of 6%. Next slide. This chart reflects the district's increase in enrollment for the last 5 years. Enrollment is expected to be at approximately 118,498 for the 2020-2021 school year. Next slide. We always like to provide the board a comparison of CFISD teacher salaries compared to the neighboring districts. CFISD is ranked third in the beginning teacher salary and second in the 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, and 30-year salaries for 2019 to 2020. The CFISD teacher salaries shown in this slide do not include the additional $1,000 one-time payment, which would rank the district second in beginning teacher salary and first in the 20-year salary. Next slide. The budget the 2020-2021 budget includes funding for the following: the second half day of full day pre-K for one semester of $4.1 million, The remainder of the second half of the full-day pre-K was budgeted in 2019-2020 when the district implemented full-day pre-K in January of 2020. In addition, we budgeted for COVID-19 expenditures of $10 million to fund personal protective equipment, cleaning of classrooms between periods, continued printing of instructional packets if necessary, different instructional options depending on COVID-19, additional tutoring in camps, additional summer school, and as Linda Macias indicated, not charging for summer school, access to devices and internet, and other unexpected costs. In addition, the district had to budget for the operational cost to open Rowe Middle School of $3.5 million, as well as new teachers and paraprofessionals for growth, TRS on behalf increases, and the district contribution increase for a total of $11.6 million. Also, the cost for increases of software licenses, property insurance, and student accident and cybersecurity insurance were included in the budget for $4.8 million. And lastly, for 2020-2021 priorities, such as fine arts uniform replacements, ninth grade cheer, recruitment, emergency operations plan, as well as art equipment repair. Next slide. House Bill 3 revenue considerations. Next item down. Okay. According to House Bill 3, school district M&O tax rates will be compressed to the lower of the state compressed rate or the local compressed rate, beginning in tax year 2020 when property values increase more than 2.5%. The more property values grow, the lower the compressed or base M&O tax rate. Next. The comptroller's estimate is a 4.01 increase in property values for tax year 2020, resulting in an M&O compressed tax rate of 0.9164 as compared to 0.93 in tax year 2019. Districts will report property values in late July to the Texas Education Agency, and then TEA will actually calculate the local compressed rate the first week of August. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, CFISD's budget was built on a 5% increase in property values. The preliminary Harris County Appraisal District values reflect a 4.89% increase in property values. For CFISD, property values typically increase slightly from preliminary certified values to final certified values due to the amount of property still uncertified at the time the preliminary values are released in April. Even if there are more property value protests this year, it is expected the district's compressed rate will be lower than the state's compressed rate, meaning that our property values grew higher than what the state was estimating as a whole. Based on the data we have at this time, we have estimated a local compressed M&O rate of approximately 0.9078. Therefore, taxpayers will see a decrease in their 2020 tax rate. Next. Prior to HB 3, districts had access to 4 of 6 golden pennies without an election. The district's current M&O tax rate includes 4 golden pennies, resulting in a 2019 M&O tax rate of 97 cents. Pennies are called golden because they are worth more and they are not subject to recapture. With the passage of House Bill 3, beginning in tax year 2020, districts now have access to 5 of 8 golden pennies without an election. An estimated compressed tax rate of 0.9078, the M&O rate with 5 golden pennies would be 0.9578, which is a decrease of 0.0122 from the 97 cents. Therefore, the district can add an additional golden penny to the tax rate, and taxpayers will see a decrease in their M&O tax rate. The additional penny results in combined state aid and tax collections funding of $12.3 million. To add the 5th golden penny, Unanimous approval of the board is required. The additional revenue from the fifth golden penny is included in the budget we are presenting to you today. Next slide. The preliminary budget is based on the cost discussed in the additional golden penny in revenues, resulting in estimated deficit of $24.5 million. The deficit assumes all positions will be filled, all budgeted funds will be spent, tax collections will slightly decrease, average daily attendance will be less, and includes an additional one-time funding for COVID-19 of $10 million. Based on preliminary estimates, we believe at June 30, 2020, that the district will come close to a balanced budget or even add to fund balance. Next slide. Administration would like to bring 2 salary options to the board for consideration. In 2019-20, the board approved a one-time payment in addition to the regular salary increase. Option 1 recommends the board roll the one-time salary payment in base salary for all employees, which would be $1,000 for teachers, librarians, counselors, and nurses, $500 for all other employees other than part-time, and part-time prorated one-time salary payment. Although this would not reflect a net salary increase, employees would be guaranteed this additional amount and not make less than the prior year with the one-time payment, and future salary increases would be based on the new amount. Option 2 recommends rolling the one-time salary payment in the base salary and then providing a 1% salary increase at the greater of the midpoint or base. A 1% raise would help employees offset the cost of health insurance premium increases. Next slide. The cost for option 1 of rolling the 2019-20 one-time salary payment in the base would be approximately $12.3 million. The additional cost for option 2 of a salary increase of 1% or the greater of midpoint or base after rolling the one-time salary payment in base salary would be $8.1 million. Although this would increase the estimated budget deficit to $44.9 million, the district has a healthy fund balance and has not realized prior budget deficits. The district's current fund balance is $518.7 million, or almost 6.5 months of expenditures in fund balance. With a deficit of $44.9 million, the district will still have approximately 6 months in fund balance. Furthermore, as noted earlier in the presentation, the deficit assumes all positions will be filled, all budgeted funds will be spent, tax collections will decrease slightly, average daily attendance will be less, and includes additional one-time funding for COVID-19 of $10 million. And just to sum up, it is very unusual for all of these type of items to occur, and we do not anticipate all of them to come into being. However, we have to build a budget based on all the possibilities. Now I'm open for any questions that the board may have on the preliminary budget.
Just to add to Karen's presentation, by the way, Karen, great job. Thank you for making that presentation very clear. The only thing that I would add, because I know we've got 2 or 3 relatively new board members, is we have proposed a deficit budget for the last 3 years, and all 3 of those years we've added to fund balance at the end of the year. And the reason for that are many of the reasons Karen stated, but I'll just put it simply. We budget high, and we estimate revenues to be low. That way, that gives us a little cushion. So just from the superintendent's standpoint, I feel very comfortable including adding the one-time payment into base salary and the 1% increase to the midpoint or base. And again, you know, one of these years we are going to run a deficit budget. And if ever we're going to run a deficit budget, it might be this year. But why do you have a fund balance if it's not there to help offset when you're going through I'll be honest, I've been in this business 39 years. I've never been through anything like this. I've been through four hurricanes, lots of ice storms and floods, but I've never been through anything like this. So Karen and her team, along with the entire district and the trustees with your leadership, you've put us in position to weather a storm, which we're in right now. So I feel very confident in the budget that we've presented. And when we come back to you in 2021, I think we're going to be standing tall. So that's just my commentary.
Thanks, Dr. Henry. Mr. Jackson. You need to,
I think it's him.
Have you got it? Hold on a second, Mr. Jackson.
I think it's you, Tom.
There we go.
No, the host had muted me both last time and this time, and I cannot unmute myself until he unmutes me first. Just part of the software we're dealing with. Karen, good presentation, thorough. What do we run in the way of substitute salaries every year?
The total cost, you mean, is usually about 12 to 13 million.
So up slightly from where it was, say, 4 or 5 years ago. Did you build in a increased percentage of absenteeism for staff when you pulled together your budget in that COVID-19 cushion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Jackson. I'm glad you brought that up. That is part of the $10 million that we budgeted for.
Did you have an actual percentage, or just did you just use a rough dollar amount?
Just a rough dollar amount.
To repeat something that you said, the revenues includes the addition of one golden penny. Did I understand you properly?
Yes, sir.
You and I have chatted about that off and on over the past year. I certainly support that concept. And let me repeat what I thought I heard you say, that even if the one golden penny was added, homeowners would still see a reduction in tax rate. Is that, did I understand you?
That is correct. And Mr. Jackson, that's the case, whether it be based on the state compressed rate or the local compressed rate. So whatever the values end up being when we finally hear back from the Texas Education Agency on what our local compressed rate is, regardless, the lowest would be the state compressed rate.
Thank you. On the size of our reserves, how many months reserves is that roughly?
We have 6.5 months in fund balance currently. And with the potential deficit, it could be, we would still have 6 months in fund balance.
Is 6 months still considered to be the gold standard for an educational entity like ours?
I would say that's above, or it's very good. In other words, typically what's recommended is at least 3 months in fund balance, and we have over that. So we feel very comfortable with our recommendations.
This is a question / comment for Mark, and it doesn't even have to be answered at this time. It's if you want, it can just be food for thought. We're obviously in a period of significant disruption. We are also facing ongoing competition from charters that are being increasingly encouraged to move into strong performing districts such as ours. And we know that there are a number of new charter facilities that are scheduled to be open and to compete against us. The questions are twofold. One, as it relates to Mark, out of the changes that we've had to make, does that give us any new competitive advantages going forth that we can offer to our students? And then secondly, over to you, Karen, when you put in your population growth, did you include the potential loss of students to these competitors?
Tom, I think we always have a competitive advantage because we have a better product. Now, that doesn't mean politically that the state is not pushing charter schools, but I think that the state is going to have a difficult time pushing charter schools this next year, because every student that crosses the street from a Cypher school and goes to a charter school costs the state an additional $1,500. So I don't know how you can justify increasing the state budget by encouraging charter schools when, number one, they do not perform as well and they do not offer as much. But I understand, you know, that, and it's a bigger issue than what is practical. Sometimes it's political. But I think stacked up against any charter school, they don't stand a snowball's chance.
Mark, I agree with your analysis simply because it's factually correct. I suspect that the virtual learning enrichment that we're starting to build will give us yet another technological advantage in that we can offer to our students to stay here. So over to you, Karen. When you figured in the population growth, did you calculate in the fact that there are new charters that are scheduled to open up in August, September?
We utilized, what we expected to be, as well as what PASA's projections were. And to be honest, as Dr. Henry indicated, we really feel with all the options that we are offering with the virtual enrichment, these blended options, that the district will not suffer from losses to charter schools. And in addition, I think it's been very obvious that our parents really miss our teachers.
Our parents and grandparents miss their teachers. I attended the TASB workshop on the impact of COVID on funding for the state. Something that came out of that workshop indicated that a diminution in state funding could be felt not so much this coming school year, but in the year after and the year after that. Would you tend to agree with that discussion point, Karen?
Yes, sir. In fact, that some of those discussions have actually been going on between TEAs, CFOs, and that's actually what ended up happening the last time in 2008-9 when, or I think it was 8-9 when the economy went down previously, and it wasn't the very next year, but it was actually the next biennium, or actually the next 2 to 3 years that were affected.
If I remember right, it was approximately a 20% budget cut over about a 3-year time span.
You are correct.
Within your budget for COVID, did you include any increase in counselors at our schools? And what I mean by that, we allocate counselors based upon the population of an individual campus. So some elementaries might have 1 counselor, and another elementary with 70 more students might have 2. Are we looking to add counselors to these elementaries and middle schools that for a small shift in numbers would be eligible for another counselor? Is that part of your COVID budget or not?
Well, that's not part of the COVID. Now, we did have part of it as if there is a little bit extra needed here or there. That is included in there, as well as psychological services. But if you recall, last year's budget included adding 29 elementary school counselors to get every elementary school up to at least 2 counselors. All of those counselors were not hired last year, so that's still in the budget to have all those counselors hired. And we will, we have left a cushion, within that 10 million to cover different things that we might not know at this point in time we're going to need, but could arise.
Very good, thank you. Bob, that concludes my comments and questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Dr. Ogletree.
Yes, Karen, just a clarification. You mentioned that with this budget, if we do the golden penny, that we would still dip into our fund balance. I see on one sheet is 24,495. 24,495,568. But I thought I heard you say something about 40. It going up to 40 something million. Did I mishear or?
No, actually, Dr. Ogletree, basically what it was is we first showed you the cost of the base, I guess you could say, budget considerations that basically are going to happen or would need to happen regardless. And that gave us a deficit of the $24.5 million, million dollars, excuse me. And then the next thing was we added in those budget considerations for you as far as salaries are concerned. So if you include the one-time payment in base salary and do the 1% raise, that's how we get up to the 44.9 million.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard. Okay, thank you.
That's all you got, Dr. O?
That's it.
Okay, Ms. Heineman.
Karen, thank you so much for all the information. One question I have is the fifth golden penny, is that for 1 year only?
No, that's a good question. You're probably remembering what happened when we were able to do those additional pennies after a disaster with Hurricane Harvey. And no, this would be a permanent increase, and it would continue from now on after.
Okay, great. Second question, are we expecting any federal or state emergency funds? I know the governor was given some money that he could distribute to school districts. Does this budget include any of that?
No, it does not. What we're anticipating will happen, Julie, is probably that it's the CARES funding, and it'll probably be very similar to what we had as stimulus money after the crisis that happened in 2008, 2009. And what ended up happening is the state suffered a shortfall of sales taxes and oil and gas taxes. And in order to meet their requirements to the school districts, what they did is they supplemented with the CARES funding so districts would not see a reduction in funding.
Right.
And we fully anticipate the same thing to occur this time.
Right. And I participated in the same webinar that Mr. Jackson referenced, and there was some concern about the state relying on federal stimulus dollars, which are not sustainable. So again, goes back to that concern about the next biennium. I had one other question. You made a comment, and I don't see it in here, about the district's contribution to TRS healthcare. Can you, I don't know that I understood what you were saying.
What I was referring to is TRS on behalf. We have to budget for the amount that the state contributes towards TRS, as well as there's a portion that the district has to contribute. And what the legislative session did in the 86th legislative session is they actually increased the funding requirements over a period of time for both the state, for school districts, as well as the employees, to make sure that the fund was, viable, continued to flourish in the future.
So just to make sure I understand, so we will, with this $4.8 million, that the district will now be contributing more to employee health insurance?
No, this is TRS. This is the TRS retirement portion.
Okay, not healthcare. Okay, got it. Sorry, my bad. Are there any discussions about health insurance?
Well, one of the things is why we recommended the 1% raise, or at least brought it to your attention for consideration, is because of that. However, I will say we were pleased. This was the year that TRS actually went out and did a request for qualifications to get new providers, and they will be going with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And fortunately, in many areas, we actually there was a decrease in the premium for TRS Active Care high deductible plan. The employee only went up $228 for a year for that, so that's the entire year. However, the employee spouse amount is, the employee children and the employee family amount went down. So that's one of the things that employees have been asking for, because the employee children and employee family were getting so high. So that amount actually went down. They also have offered two options out there. They already had a TRS Select plan, which is limited to where you could go. And so it's kind of like an HMO, so to speak, and it limited. And that plan went down, as well as another plan that's even a little bit more limited. That plan went down. The one that went up the most was TRS Active Care 2. And that is intentional, based on TRSs, because they're trying to get employees to leave that plan.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for the information. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ms. Heineman. Mrs. Arabia.
Yes, I echo Julie's sentiments also on that last question Julie had. Very important to our employees' health insurance. That is a big question. It's nice to see that the district is taking action and trying their best to lower costs for the employees, especially in this time of environment that we have right now. So kudos to that. And I'm in favor of anything that we can to lower their costs and to give them better service. And like Karen said, their family premiums going down also. All of that is welcome news, and I appreciate that. Great presentation, great questions by my fellow trustees. Appreciate everything there, but I'm all for the helping the employees with their insurance, especially this time of need. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thanks, Mrs. Arabia. Mr. Ryan. Mr. Ryan.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Great report. Everybody's asked everything.
Okay.
I don't no reason to kill the horse.
Yeah. Well, don't do that. Okay. Ms.
No.
Blackshear.
Yes, I have one question. Karen, it was a great presentation. Back when we were talking about cost of budget considerations, you talked about the cleaning of classrooms between classes. Will that require hiring additional custodians? Because that seems like a huge task for the number of custodians currently at a school to do all of that between classes, all the classrooms.
What the plan is at this time is for the teachers, as well as to be trying to take care of that between periods. We've talked about, do we need a little more time between periods to make sure that occurs? But it will not be the custodians coming in, because that would be too difficult, but it would be within the classroom itself. And they are looking at different types of sprays that they could utilize that evaporate quickly.
Okay. Yes.
Debbie,
Yes,
I was
Dr.
just
Henry?
going to say, that's still undergoing discussion. That's part of our committee that we, our opening backup committee. No decisions have really been made on how we're going to address that. So we're still working on that.
Okay, I just know that a lot of times between classes, if after class, if a student has a question, they may be occupying the teacher asking questions, and I could foresee that might be a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's one we got to figure out.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all you have, Ms. Blackshear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Karen, thank you very much for the presentation. Much like Mr. Ryan, I think all of the questions that I had were answered, and certainly appreciate the in-depth presentation. Thank you very much. Board, we will now proceed with the consensus action items portion of the agenda. 5A, the board will consider approving the minutes of the April 13, 2020 regular board meeting. I just went blank. I'm sorry. All right, then the board will now proceed to the non-consensus action items portion. I've got a vote on that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
After each item.
I know. I see your look, Don. Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Bob. Hey, I move that the board approve the minutes of the April 3rd, 2020 regular board meeting as prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. All in favor, please. Are there any questions? No. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Or left. Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, the board will now proceed with the non-consensus action items portion of the agenda. 6A, the board will consider approving the budget amendments for the period of January 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2020. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is that you, Dr. O?
Yes.
Maybe.
Okay. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Any questions, concerns? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. The board will consider approving on second reading additions, revisions, or deletions. Deletions.
Or what?
Oh, Lord, I'm trying to read too fast. Okay. The board will consider approving on second reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. 1, CQ local technology resources, a revise. 2, CQB local. I'm sorry. Technology resources, cybersecurity, and add. 3, EHBB local special programs, gifted and talented students, a revise. May I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the additions, revisions, or deletions to the district policies.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who said that?
Don did.
Don. Okay.
Yeah, I said it.
Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
On 6B, number 3, as it relates to gifted and talented students, it pertains to a question I raised my rookie year. I looked at the online information that TEA posted and took a look at the percentage of children that we had listed as gifted, talented compared to the state average, and we were significantly below. I asked a question that first year and then again the second year. Over the span of the 8 years, our numbers have slowly increased and the state numbers have slowly decreased. I remain concerned that perhaps we're not capturing all of our GT students. And so the question is, will these changes exacerbate the problem, keep it the same, or permit a way to realize a better identification. It's very easy not to identify a GT kid. For example, I was a National Merit kid, but I wasn't permitted to be included in the GT program until I was in junior high. And I can give you other personal anecdotes, but also anecdotes of neighbors where it took years and years for children to finally be accepted into the GT program here in Cy-Fair. I know that when we had our cutback of 20%, the GT testing program that we had implemented was removed because of cost considerations. And so my question on this is, we are not cementing into policy procedures that will make it difficult for children to be identified or qualify for the GT program. And that can either be answered by Linda, or we can save the answer for a future board meeting. But that's my concern when I read through this.
Dr. Macias, are you muted?
He's trying to unmute her.
Hold on a sec.
Oh, you had her.
There we go.
This is a first. We didn't know that happened with you.
Mr. Jackson, the changes that you see here for the most part are as a result of the requirements or changes in HB3. And I think that there are some good changes in here. One of them that I think that will help increase our students who are being recommended for GT's testing is that the HB3 requires that districts have an awareness session, awareness meeting for parents, not GT parents, but just parents in general, regarding gifted and talented, the process, the assessments, and the rights of parents. A lot of what's in the law has to do with the rights of parents and even furloughs of GT and things of that sort. So I do think that that is going to help it. There is nothing in here that is going to prohibit us from searching and looking for more GT students. Part of our job is to provide a better way of educating our teachers as well, because in the underrepresented areas, it's not necessarily the parents that are referring, but we need the teachers to refer. And so we're working on that. We're working on making sure teachers have a better understanding of giftedness and even their responsibility to refer when parents are not doing that. Another thing that we will begin to investigate is that there are many districts that qualify kids not just on general ability, which is basically what we do, but there are districts that qualify kids based on other things like are they gifted in the arts or creativity or leadership. And so we'll do some research there to see what that entails and whether it's something that we might want to look and implement. But the priority really for us is the underrepresented group, is our economic disadvantaged group, and the ethnic groups that fall mainly within those groups.
Well, Linda, and I'm glad you made a point on that. And I'll give you another anecdote. My eldest, who scored in the top 7% of the LSAT exam, which clearly qualified her, although that's not an IQ test, as being evidentiary of being GT. And when she started in private school, was tested to be in GT. When she came over to Cy-Fair, there had to be a teacher recommendation, and no teacher would recommend her. And I asked, and the teacher said, well, she doesn't ask enough questions in class. And that's one of the signature signposts of a GT child. So I appreciate the fact that we're able to better educate our teachers who refer our students. But if it happens to somebody of my skin color who speaks English, I'm concerned that, as you pointed out, that for those that may speak English a little differently or perhaps look a little different, the identification of GT may unintentionally be passed over. So I appreciate your highlighting that in your answer. And I certainly support whatever measures that y'all deem appropriate to try and enhance the number of students that we have as GT. The research is very solid that it identifies that the earlier a GT child is in fact identified and can be academically nurtured, the results are magnified. So thank you for your answer. Bob, that concludes my comment and question.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We have a motion by Ms. Blackshear and a second by Mr. Ryan. I'm sorry, Ms. Heineman.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just had one question. And Dr. Macias spent a lot of time with me on the phone answering a lot of my questions regarding this policy change. And I do appreciate that, Dr. Macias, and helping me understand what drove the changes to policy and the fact, and we agreed that so much of the effort to reach out to parents will happen at the campus level, which again, I appreciate. My only comment or question has to do with the program evaluation, where it adds parents to the evaluation process for our GT programs. I'd like us to consider also adding students and getting students' feedback on GT programs.
And as I shared, we haven't quite gotten there to the piece on the evaluation. The yearly evaluation submitted to the state is a new piece in the law, and it's connected to the fact that the specific GT funding, the way it was listed, is different now. Now it's rolled into the general allocation, but
Right.
The state wanted to make sure that the program and the intent and the guidelines were in place for every district to continue getting that funding, even though it's being rolled into general fund, or else the district could possibly lose some funding. So we're going to work on that, and we'll bring that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we have a motion by Ms. Blackshear and a second by Mr. Ryan. All in favor, raise your right hand. And it's unanimous. That's okay. Right or left? 6C, the board will consider approving on first readings, additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies, CE local annual operating budget or revise. 2, FDB local admissions, intra-district transfers, and classroom assignments, a revise. 3, FM local student activities, a revise. May I have a motion, please?
Bob, I move that the board consider approving on first reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies, CE local, FDB local, and FM local.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Any questions or concerns? All in favor, raise your right hand. Or left. Unanimous. 6D, the board will consider approving a one-year waiver of the annual physical examination requirement for designated UIL and extracurricular participation in FFAA local, wellness and health services, physical exams for students with a current physical from the 2019-2020 school year. I think we have a presentation by the famous Mr. Ray Zepeda.
Wow, I've been watching this board meeting for a long time and haven't heard anything quite like that. So just real quickly, I just want to say that recently the UIL Medical Advisory Committee met twice to actually consider this situation given the COVID-19 pandemic, and determined and recommended to the UIL that they change their current policy in regards to physicals prior to participation. And they basically approved a measure that would mirror exactly what we have up for your consideration today, which is that there would be a one-year waiver of the provision that we have requiring annual physicals in our school district. And that if a student had a physical on file for the 1920 school year, that we would approve them for participation with a review of their medical questionnaire. We feel like that this is the most responsible way to proceed at this point, given kind of our situation and the stress of our healthcare partners that we work with, and think that we can very reasonably protect our students prior to education by carefully reviewing their medical questionnaires they will be turning in without requiring them to get a new physical. We would only ask that the provision, an exception be made for this 1 year. And then obviously we would probably take this up again at the conclusion of this year for the next school year.
Thank you, Mrs. Zepeda. Do I have a motion?
Bob, I move that the board approve the 1-year waiver of the annual physical examinations requirement for the designated UIL and extracurricular participation in FFAA local for students with the current physical from the 2019-2020 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Any questions or concerns? Opening up. I have one for you, Ray. And
Yes,
that
sir.
is, you pretty much have answered I'm sorry, Dr. Ogletree, you go ahead.
No, I'm for everything. No, I'm good.
All right. So Ray, will this affect our athletic insurance that we have as a district at all by not having to rerun these exams?
I can't see that because as it is that most school districts across the state of Texas actually be in regular compliance with UIL rules and get a physical every 2 years. Our requirement in the past has been more rigorous than what the UIL typically requires by having the annual physical. So I think that we would be in good shape in regards to any concerns that an insurance company would have in protecting our student athletes and also our fine arts performers.
All right. Thank you. That's what I needed. Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Ryan and a second by Ms. Blackshear. All in favor, raise your right hand or left hand, either one. And that's unanimous. Thank you. 6C, the board will consider approving a waiver of the provisions of EIE local academic achievement, retention, and promotion necessary for the district to adjust promotion standards related to the 2020 STAR assessments due to the COVID-19 pandemic. May I have a motion?
Bob, I move that the board approve a waiver of all provisions in EIEIO local. I didn't say O, I just threw that in there. Academic achievement, retention, and promotion necessary for the district to adjust promotion standards related to the 2020 STAR assessments due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
I second that, Bob.
Thank you, Dr. O. Do we have any questions or concerns? Anyone? All in favor, raise your right or left hand. And that's unanimous. 6F, the board will consider approving the district instructional material recommendations for AP Chemistry and AP Biology courses. May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the board approve the instructional material recommendation for AP Chemistry and AP Biology courses.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do we have any questions or concerns? Okay, all in favor, raise your either hand. And that's unanimous. Tom, you did have it up, right?
Yes.
There you go. Okay. The board will consider approving innovative course offerings for career and technology education and special education. May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the innovative course offerings for career and technical education and special education.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Do we have any questions or concerns? Okay, all in favor, raise either hand. Thank you. That's unanimous. 6H, the board consider approving the memorandum of understanding between Harris County Juvenile Board and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD to participate in the JJAEP for the 2020-2021 school year. May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the memorandum of understanding between Harris County Juvenile Board and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD to participate in the JJAEP for the 2020-2021 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Anybody have any questions or concerns? All in favor, raise one hand. Doesn't matter which one. And that's it. Okay. Unanimous. 6I, the board will consider approving a resolution to join and participate in the Education Service Center, ESC Region 19, Allied States Cooperative, and authorize a superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to the ESC Region 19, Allied States Cooperative. May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve a resolution to join and participate in the ESC Region 19 Allied States Cooperative and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to the ESC Region 19 Allied States Cooperative.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Do we have any questions or concerns? Okay, all in favor, raise a hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. 6J, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and are authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 1, Emergency Management Software Solutions, RMS. 2, Extra Hop Cybersecurity. 3, FCC Application 200021473, Co-op, quote, 2020 Aruba Switch 2. 4, FCC Application 20002147322020, Co-op, quote, Aruba Switches. 5, FCC Application 20001473, Co-op, quote, stop. 2020 Aruba Wireless Access Points. Oh, God, there's more. 6, FCC Application 200021002, Co-op, quote, 2020 Cabling. 7, FCC 470 Application 200200943, Co-op, quote, 2020 Switch. 8, FCC 470 Application 200020943, Co-op, quote, 2020 Switch Hub Equipment. Excuse me. 9, Property Insurance Renewal. 10, Schoology and Performance Matters. 11, Software License and Maintenance Renewal Expansion. 12, VoIP Phone Purchase and Deployment Project. May I have a motion?
Yes, sir. I move that the board award the bids and contracts and are authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the agenda item under 6J, especially if we get to go to Aruba. No, scratch that portion, but let's, approve under 6J, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Hull. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Yes, sir, Mr. Jackson.
On items 1 through 8, and this question's for Paula, we have roughly, I guess, about $33 million worth of contracts. Which of these are annual renewals, equipment leasing, which is new equipment? Would you give us an overview, please?
Yes, sir. Technology is either directly or indirectly involved in each of these initiatives. The very first one is a new purchase for our emergency management software. And I don't know if Chief Mendez or Scott Hudson, the Director of Energy Management, wants to comment on this purchase, but it is a new purchase. If no comments, moving on to item number 2. This is a new cybersecurity purchase, and this purchase will help us monitor, discover, and map all internal network traffic and help us to detect if there are any network anomalies within our network. Whereas a firewall is on the edge of our network to determine north-south traffic, Extra Hop will help us manage internal network, which runs east-west. And President Covey, I promised to work on the titles of these next several initiatives for next time, but each of these are named accordingly for the Federal Communications Commission. We've applied for E-rate in each of these categories, and these items will be new purchases, and they will be purchased for either new sites, renovations, and addressing expansion needs. We currently are purchasing Cisco network switching for our network closets and our hub sites. And by including Aruba network as an option, we are able to test some security features. So this gives us flexibility as we move forward in the future when we have a refresh. And that covers items 1 through 8.
Would you consider that we primarily went after the best available, or did we go with the absolute minimum and cheapest offering? I.e., did we go for best of breed, or were we willing to settle for whatever was available?
No, sir. We have historically gone for best of breed. One of the problems that best of breed does present to us is that on the backside, there is not as great of an interoperability between products, and hence the reason that we would like to possibly pilot some Aruba type switching in the future, since our wireless network is Aruba.
And the problem that you identified is fairly common with the top providers. They prefer for you to use all of their offerings, and they actually make it difficult to work with other top providers. My next question, I guess, really goes to Linda. It's item number 10, Schoology and Performance Matters. If you would give us a brief overview of what this software is, how it will benefit our teachers and students. Is this new software or a renewal? And if it's the new software, what other districts are using this software?
Mr. Jackson, this is a new software system, and you may recall that last month I just alluded briefly that we were looking at an online platform that would better assist our teachers in virtual teaching and our students in virtual learning. But beyond that, I'll share a little bit about this. Beyond that, it's actually a software that is going to help us with continuing our movement towards blended learning, just in the general school year, blended learning for our students. Schoology is basically a platform that puts everything students, teacher needs in a one easy to use platform system to teach, learn, communicate, share, and collaborate at any time on any device. So in essence, it will bring the entire CFISD educational community together. For staff, it is a unified platform for curriculum, teaching, collaboration, communication, and data, as I've shared. It will integrate the different systems like Google Classroom, the Google Drive, Microsoft One, Zoom. It's a platform that teachers can use to utilize resources to create their entire courses online. You may recall that right now we have a curriculum management system that we call iExplore. But basically, iExplore holds our curriculum, our resource, and our assessment data in one place. It's a repository, but that's it. We need to go further where our teachers can pull the curriculum, pull the content, and push out activities and lessons to students right now during this time, but also continuously throughout the school year. Additionally, Schoology will link with other systems that we have, such as eSchool, Gradebook, where content is graded in Schoology. So if teachers grade content in Schoology, it is right away recorded into the teacher gradebook. For students, it provides us an opportunity to provide highly personalized learning, that personalized learning environment for students that we can use on a day-to-day basis during regular school, not just right now during this pandemic. It provides interactive discussion boards for students. It provides an opportunity for students to turn in assignments in the traditional written form, but also the recording of video or to audio responses. And for parents, it provides a seamless access to basically the whole school community. They can access student work and student grades. They can communicate with teachers through Schoology. If a campus wants, it can participate in some type of school community group, such as senior parent groups or college or career readiness, different systems of that sort. It's something that we've been needing, but it really surfaced during this time. But again, I just want to press that it's not a system for us to use just right now during this pandemic for online learning, but it's a system that we will continue using as we venture through blended learning for our students.
Thank you for a very detailed and thorough answer. Certainly, I find this vehicle to be very exciting going forth. I did reach out and I have spoken to some teachers that are actually using it, and they're tickled when a grade gets done in one area and it automatically transfers into the grade book. Something as simple as that brought great joy.
And you asked about districts that are using it. Let me share first that we plan to roll out Schoology during summer school. So we hope to do. Actually, we have a plan to provide training for our teachers the month of May, and roll it out during summer school so that our students will have a teacher every day during summer school providing live lessons and supporting our students. But districts that are using it around us are Klein, Fort Bend, Aldine. I know that they use it in El Paso as well, and Coppell, but they have other, Spring, I believe, uses it, but they have other large school districts like us throughout the country that are also using Schoology.
And that's a key answer, that there's other large districts that use it. Because of our size, we can put pressure on software that the builders of the software never anticipated.
That is correct.
So thank you for a thorough answer. That concludes my question and comment, Bob.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We have a motion by Dr. Ogletree and a second by Ms. Heineman. All in favor, raise a hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. 6K, the board will consider approving construction proposals and contracts paid from bond funds to be recommended contractors and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contracts as follows. 1, 2019 Black, Danish, Duryea, Forney, Kirk, Lee, and Sampson Elementary Schools, Renos. 2019 M. Robinson, A. Robeson, Swinky, Tips, and Warner Elementary Schools, Renos. 2020 Matsky Road, site clearing and grubbing package. May I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the board award these construction contracts to the recommended contractors and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contracts.
Thank you, Ms. Blacksher. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any questions or concerns? All in favor, raise a hand, please. And that's unanimous. 6L, the board to consider approval and execution of a plat for the Yeager Elementary School property. May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve and execute the plat for the Yeager Elementary School property as prepared by our registered professional land surveyor, Westbelt Surveying, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who did that?
Tom did.
Come on, Bubble.
Who did?
Tom.
Oh, Tom. I'm sorry. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Ryan and a second by Mr. Jackson. Do we have any questions or concerns? All in favor, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. 6M, the board will consider approving an update of the district's hazardous traffic conditions resolution as required by TEA to receive supplemental transportation funding. May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the update to the district's hazardous traffic conditions resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
I'll second my own deal. And
thank you, Ms. Heineman. I'm not sure, Don, but I think that's illegal, but that's okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Any? Okay. All in favor, raise a hand. And that's unanimous. 6N, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent or designee to finalize and execute a purchase and sale agreement for an approximate 50-acre tract on FM 529 east of West Green Boulevard and negotiate and execute any necessary closing documents, contracts, easements, utility service, post closings, and development agreements, etc. May I have? We don't have a no.
Are we going to close session for this?
Going to close session on this. Okay.
I move that we go into closed session.
I know, but we've got 3 of them. Can't we vote on them all at one time to go to closed?
Yeah, you can just go to closed, can't we?
All right. 6O, the board will discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. That's going to be in closed session. 6P, the board will consider approving the superintendent's recommendation to give notice to Diane Riggs that her employment with the district under a continuing contract is proposed for termination and authorize the president of the board to notify Ms. Riggs of the proposed action pursuant to 21.156 of the Texas Education Code. Also going to be in the closed session. May I have a motion to go to closed session?
I move we go to closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshire. All in favor, raise your right hand. That's our left. Doesn't matter. Okay, good. Thank you. We are going to close session. Please join me.
Microphone's open.
Dr. Ogletree, thank you. May I have a second? Thank you, Dr. Tom Jackson, thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand or left. Okay, it's unanimous. 6N, the board will consider authorizing the superintendent or designee to finalize and execute a purchase and sale agreement for an approximate 50-acre tract on FM 529 east of West Green Boulevard and negotiate and execute any necessary closing documents, contracts, easements, utility service, post-closing and development agreements, etc. We already had the presentation. May I have a motion?
I move that the board authorize the superintendent or designee to finalize and execute a purchase and sale agreement for an approximate 50-acre tract of land on FM 529 east of West Green Boulevard and negotiate and execute any necessary closing documents, contracts, easements, utility service, post-closing, and development agreements, etc., required for the purchase.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Any questions or concerns? All in favor?
I don't have any, Bob.
What did he say?
I don't know.
All in favor, raise the hand. Thank you. And that's unanimous. 6O, the board will discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. May I have a motion?
There's no motion.
There's no motion.
You don't need a motion on that.
Oh, that was a discussion. Excuse me. All right. 6P, the board will consider approving the superintendent's recommendation to give notice to Diane Riggs that her employment with the district under a continuing contract is proposed for termination and authorize the president of the board to notify Ms. Riggs of the proposed action pursuant to 21.156 of the Texas Education Code. May I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the recommendation to notify Diane Riggs that her employment with the district under a continuing contract is proposed for termination and to provide her notice of the same in accordance with the law.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Any questions or concerns to discuss? All in favor, raise your right hand or left hand. And that is everybody, unanimous. And that ends our board meeting today. Thank you, members, for being here. Thank you for giving us your afternoon. We are adjourned. Thank you.